Okay, and we are live now. So, hello, my name is Juno Lucita, and your name is
Corissa Grant from Worthy Chaos Comics.
awesome. Very lovely to be meeting with you today. And
Thanks.
can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your comics?
Sure. I have been writing for about 17 years, but it was mostly just for fun. I was role playing online with a couple of friends, and after 17 years of it, I had realized that the last 3 years I had written about 13 novels worth of, well, I think by that point it was like 6 novels worth of story. And I thought that the story was too great to waste. So, no. Um, so I decided to turn it into a comic book series. It's kind of a mix between Buffy the Vampire Slayer meets Supernatural and Silent Hill and the Resident Evil world. And it's angels and demons and zombies, monsters, all sorts of stuff like that. So, um, yeah, it's a long series, but we started a year and a half ago, and we have issue 11 live on Kickstarter now. But we're actually starting to draw. We just started drawing 17, so we're actually pretty far ahead. So it's pretty cool.
That's awesome. That sounds like a really cool series, something that I could definitely get behind, especially to have that all out now. That
Yeah,
is
so
fantastic.
so if you go to Kickstarter and you search Worthy Chaos, we're on there. We're always on there. We're either pre-launch or live. We actually have a Kickstarter every other month. So and I ship out within 7 days of the Kickstarter ending, so people get their stuff really fast. But we have a couple ways to catch up. Like we have digital tiers. You can just buy issue 1 if you want. Some people just want to get issue 1 if they don't know the series. You can get the PDFs for $5. You get issue 1 and 2. You can get anything in the back order, back issues galore. But you can, for $25, you can get the digital catch-up tier, which is like all PDFs of all 11 issues. We have a hardcover that a lot of people start with. It's issues 1 through 7. It's 222 pages and it's $39. And a lot of people like to get that. Some people get that, and that's issues 1 through 7. So some people get that, and then 8, 9, 10, and now 11 to catch up. We do have another hardcover book coming out September, so book 2 will be out with the next 5 issues. So we do things really fast because we're very, like, I'm a very impatient person. So like I would hate to wait. A lot of indie creators only do like 4 issues a year for their series, and I do like 8. So I do a tiny bit more than some. So it's an obsession.
That's great, though. I'm sure a lot of people actually love that and look forward to your releases every time.
Yeah, I'm very lucky that a lot of them will pledge the first day or all that stuff. So we fund really fast, and I'm very lucky with that. And a lot of them do look for it because I always end them on cliffhangers, which they both love and hate at the same time. But there's something that's a unique about our story I don't think any other comic book that I know of does it. I'm sure they're out there. But since this was written during role play, the 2 main characters are written by 2 different people. So I write my chapter first through Seraphina's point of view. So everything Seraphina says or thinks, whatever, I wrote it. And Draven, the demon descendant, who's her soulmate, everything that one is written, is anything he says or speaks is all Jess. So you have 2 completely different personalities, which is really nice for the 2 main characters. So it gives it a little bit uniqueness when you read it. You could tell it's 2 different people.
I love that. And what has inspired you to start writing and your career in comic books?
So what originally started was there's a game, Resident Evil 2, that I had seen a commercial for long time ago, back in the 90s. It was this alligator that comes out of the sewer, and for whatever reason this made me want to play it. So I went out, bought PlayStation, rented the game, and I started playing, and I got so obsessed with the main character Claire that I actually role played her for 17 years. So I'm dyslexic, so when I first started, it was like one-liners, and then it was kind of it took 17 years before I could sit down and write, a large amount. Now I can do 3 to 6,000 words per sitting. So it's a little bit better than the one lining I used to do. So it's pretty good.
Great. And did you have any influences on your thing? Like anybody that helped support you or somebody you looked up to?
So not in the sense of like in my life kind of thing, but I really liked The Crow, the graphic novel The Crow. So that was a big thing. Supernatural, the TV show, was a big influence on the way that I wrote. A lot of the story parts of it are things that I loved about the show, like um, her father's, Seraphina is an angel descendant, and Draven is a demon descendant. So we took that kind of thing. Um, and the main part of the story is that their fathers, an angel and a demon, are trying to get this angelic weapon from Seraphina that she was created from. And if they can get this object away from her and use it, they could tip the scales between heaven and hell, the war, in their favor. However, it requires Seraphina's soul to activate it. And if they used her soul for it, she will no longer reincarnate, and she can no longer be with Draven because they're with each other in every life. So a lot of that was a supernatural influence of the whole die and come back kind of thing. And so that was a big influence on it. But in my personal life, the only thing that got me into comics when I was a kid was my older brother got me into comics, and he took me to the store, and I got obsessed with Ghost Rider. I loved Ghost Rider, and that was a huge influence on me, which was really great. So that was like my favorite series.
That's great. And for real, your series sounds like amazing, something I could definitely get into. So
Well, I can always send you a couple of PDFs for you to read.
I would love
um,
that.
yeah, if anyone's interested, I usually give issue 1 and 2 PDFs away because the series is so long that I'm perfectly happy, giving it. Plus, I love when people read it. I really love getting feedback from it. I think I gave it to like 4 people the last two 2 days, 3 days, and they all came back like that's insanely, good, and we loved it. And I will tell you and warn you ahead of time because apparently you get my readers, and I do, of course, get very invested in the characters. Good. He's like, I'm definitely interested. But if you get very invested in it, and I'll get messages all the time being like, how could you do this to me? And I gotta wait because of the way it ended, and we're cliffhangers galore, and so some of them, but fortunately you only have to wait a month, and then you'll get it. But yeah, I've had a lot of people write to me and be like, I read it 7 times when the next one come out, and those always make me feel good. So I have my letter is really he'll ask me questions. So we have a couple of characters. We have Anubis. We have plushies galore, by the way. We are really big into merch. That's me. That's my fault. I wanted it, so I bought it. But we have merch. We have these 2. We have our bigger plushies. So I don't have him right now because I sold them all and I have to get another one. But we have a character called Chatty. He's half chameleon and half vampire bat. And he talks all the time. So he started in issue 10, and he's adorable. Like, everyone loves him. He follows after my character, trying to get with, follow her around, and he's always sad because he can't catch up with her and he's left behind, and she doesn't know he's there. So anyway, I had my letter write to me, and he goes, nothing happens to Chatty, right? And I was like, well, no, Chatty's safe. Well, Chatty's probably the safest one because he's just too cute to hurt. So but he's absolutely adorable, hang out on her shoulder or whatever. So it's a vampire bat that looks like a chameleon. So think about a vampire bat that can just like merge with its background so you can't see where it is at all times. But he's adorable. He squeaks all the time. So but yeah, people get very invested in the characters, which is good. That's what you want. But I've had people be like, I gotta be careful because my letter will read something and he's just like, how does it end? What is going on? And I was like, you really want to know? Because I'll tell anybody. But I don't mind spoilers. But I've been told I give too much away. So I'm one of those people that if I was ever in the movies or something, they couldn't give me like the real script or something because I wouldn't want to give it away. But yeah.
I'm also one of those people who both love merch and am okay with spoilers and happen to give a little bit too much detail.
I love spoilers because see, there's no spoiler that I could give that would make them not want to read it. Like, like if I tell them they're gonna meet up with this or something, they'll be like, "Oh my god, I can't wait to that part." The only thing that it will do was torture certain people because they'd be like, "When does that happen?" I was like, "Oh, that's like 10 issues down the line." Because the series is a very long running series. I already have 100 issues written for it, but we're focusing on the first 44. So it's a complete issue. It's a complete series one. It has a great ending. All that stuff. If it's popular enough or I can afford it, I want to do series two, which is 30 issues, which is really good. I really love series two. So I love this series. I have 5 in the prequel done. I mean, obviously it's a huge passion of mine. I mean, for starting a year and a half ago, I can't believe we're already drawing 17. So it's like, my artist is insanely amazing, Jonas DaCosta. He actually had never worked in comics before mine. He came to me. I had another artist who did issue 1, and they stole $3,000 from me, and I lost $5,000 with it, and I threw it away. I was like, I sold a couple of copies. I think there's like 12 copies left or 10 copies left, which now everyone wants. It's just like you've only printed 50 total. But I needed a new artist, and I had a really hard time looking for them. And he came to me, and he's like, "Can I put in a submission?" I was like, "Well, I have 5 other people, looking and doing pages for me. But if you want to hand in a page for free, I'll look at it first. Or if you want to do it after, um, if I want to do it, if you want me to look at it after, then I'll pay you for a page or whatever." So no, they did a free one, and in 24 hours, he pencil inked, lettered, colored a whole page with all the panels, and the characters looked identical to what was in my head. Like I had gone through, like I probably spent about thousands, at least, I don't know, 3 or 4 thousand just trying to find an artist. That's how many, and they were really good artists, but it was so hard to find one that saw what was in my head. I was like, why can't you see what's in my head? And I couldn't show them actors that we had in mind because I accidentally showed someone that and it came out like looking exactly like them. I was like, I can't use that now. It looks too much like the actor. So it was very tough to find an actor like that. But now I will warn you, there's 2 things that besides it's very addicting. So there's 3 things I got to warn you. One, it is incredibly addicting. Which is a good thing, but it really is addicting. I don't know if it's the characters, I don't know if it's their sarcasm or their bond that they have, but whatever it is, you get really invested. The second thing is it's very action packed, especially the first 2, extremely chaotic, which why it has its name. Extremely chaotic. It goes from fighting everything. They're in a town, merged with hell, and all these creatures are coming up, hellhounds, Anubis, and ghosts, and everything, and they're fighting their way through this. So the first 2 issues are very chaotic. It kind of evens out, but it never stops. It's all action packed. We give them like a couple of times to relax. I think in issue 5 they get like 4 pages, and that was a lot. But it's mostly an action. It's a survival horror, comic with these 2 just trying to fight against everything. Issue 1 through 7 is the Silent Hill type town where they're trapped in the town and they can't leave and all these things are coming up. Issues 8 through 12 are them trapped in an insane asylum with ghosts, giant salamanders, which is our version of the lickers from Resident Evil, and zombie mental patients. So we have all that stuff. And then issues, which we're drawing now, 14 through 22 are all pretty much zombies. You're trapped in a zombie infested town. We don't give the secret of what the virus is, but they're trying to get through this town against all this stuff. And those are my favorite. You're not supposed to have favorite issues. I love them all, but 14 through 22 is my absolute favorite. I love it. It's like Resident Evil 2, and it's just so fun to see. We add 2 new main characters for those issues, and it gives you a nice comic relief kind of thing to kind of like play off these characters and all that fun stuff. So
That's so cool. I feel like you're about to make me go broke though if I'm gonna be like just buying all these comics and even the merch because I love merch.
I hear that a lot. Yeah.
And that was
Yeah.
great that you found an artist that could help you out as well.
He's absolutely amazing, and I have to say he's very invested in it because so like he went away for a month on vacation after issue 3. And my husband's like, don't bother him, don't message him, don't talk to him. I was like, all right, fine, whatever, I won't message him. So 2 weeks in, he messages me and he's like, I miss drawing it. I can't wait to get back and draw it. I was like, enjoy your vacation, but I can't wait till you come back either. And then I think it was like last month, he wrote to me. So he goes to school ever since issue 6, and you could tell his art is, I mean, I always loved it. It's gotten like 10 times better. So he had school between Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. He didn't draw. And he gets paid the same amount. So it doesn't matter how quickly he does it. It doesn't matter. But he wrote to me and he goes, I can't stand this 4-day break of not drawing this comic. So now he draws Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So it's not as big as a gap. So he loves drawing and he loves the characters. He gets mad if I spoil any of it at all. I told him 2 days ago, I was like, oh, so-and-so was upset because of the last page of issue 16. He's like, don't tell me. I was like, you already drew it, you freak. He's like, don't give away spoilers. And I was like, you have to know, you have to draw it. But it's nice that he's so invested in it. It's really nice to do that. So it's very rare that you have somebody that's, especially artists. I mean, he's not just a paid, artist. He's a part of the team, he's part of the family. He really likes it. He hasn't raised my rates a lot, which he could, because he's probably charging 3 times the amount now. So I appreciate the hell out of him. And I'm lucky that we get along so well because, it's hard work making these comics.
That's beautiful and amazing. It's always great to have a good team. It's definitely a one thing that you would like to have. What would you say is your typical process for developing a comic book storyline? You mentioned that you were doing this role play and it gave you some ideas, but how do you like put it together into a storyline?
I wish I had this. I've been asked this before. I wish I had like this great process. I wish I was outlining it. No. I have a vague idea of the entire series in my head, and I don't know anything or what's going to happen next until I sit down and write it. Like we'll have like generic ideas. Like we have 13. I think we're finishing the 13th novel now. And I don't even know what's going to happen in my next chapter. Like I sat down, I did 6,000 words last week, and I was like, oh, I didn't know that was coming. And I have no idea what's coming half the time, but I have a vague idea. Like for book 14, they actually get zapped back into medieval times because they're looking for these gems. And the angel accidentally zapped them to medieval times. So that was really fun. I already wrote the beginning and I pretty much know the ending. For the last book, there's this, thing that happens with the heaven and all this stuff with the gem. And I know that's the end of series 3. And then series 4 is this whole thing of the war between different religions. So it's going to be Anubis. So Egyptian gods teaming up with Greek gods against heaven, hell, and Celtic gods. So there's going to be this whole war. And it's going to be this like a huge thing that happens. It's all of series 4. I have no idea what's going to happen. I just know it's all up there somewhere. So when we get to it, we'll eventually write it. But yeah, there's a lot of thoughts in my head. I have no idea where they come from. We always joke that the characters were existent in another dimension and we're just seeing what happened. We get to write down what they tell us to write down. That's pretty much it. That's the only thing I can say is going on up there. I have no idea where these ideas come from.
That's a great thought too. And it's always awesome to be like super creative where you can just have these ideas. It's very fun, and especially to see it on paper and like in drawings. It's amazing.
Yeah, it was so originally we had no idea. We didn't even think of comics. This was we wrote this and we didn't know anything about it or what we were going to do with it. It was just for fun. And when we realized we had like a complete 5 novels and it had a beginning and an ending, it was really cool. I was like, what a waste that we can't do anything with it. Like I actually have a storytelling skill and I can't use it, at all. Because they weren't really meant to be novels, they're written by 2 different people. So the chapters are like, there's 2 chapters for each one per point of view. And we had an editor to see if it was something we could do. And it was, you'd have to merge the stories and it wasn't something we wanted to do. So I actually thought, all right, fine. You know what? We won't We won't release it as novels. I'll go and look. I'll find us just. I'll just print them for us in novel form. So I went looking for a cover artist to try to find, someone to do a cover. And while I was looking for one, they were all very cartoony. And I remember saying to my co-writer, do you mind cartoony or do you want realistic? Because, we had actors in our heads when we were writing it. And my co-writer's like, cartoony's fine. And like this light bulb went off. I was like, well, you don't mind cartoony. I could do a comic book. And then I said the most infamous words I've ever said. How hard can it be? And it's like the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. So here we are.
That's great. And how do you approach your character development in the comics?
I think it pretty much, they do it on their own. Like you can tell. So in the very beginning of the story, you could tell Serafina. So they had 10 years, they were separated. And this isn't a big spoiler. I got yelled at once for spoiling this. It's not a spoiler, it's the first 8 pages. So in the story, how it starts is you see them as teenagers, and they plan to run away together because their parents are abusive and they didn't really want, they wanted to be together. So they planned to go away that night. The brother found out about it, got possessed by a demon, and just when they're about to run away, she walks in on him, her brother killing their parents. So she calls up Draven, says, don't come to the house. My brother just killed my parents. Just don't come here. So of course the first thing he did was go there, because where else would he go? So he goes in the front door. The brother attacks her. She jumps out the back window, and Draven comes to the front door, trips on her, slips on her blood, calls out her name. She hears him in the yard, turns around and gets hit by a car. So she gets taken to another city in a coma, and he gets arrested for her murders, which winds up being like a frame thing that was actually planned. But so for 10 years, they actually thought both were dead. So when the story starts, they're going to this town not knowing that the other one's alive, and they run into each other. So you can tell in the very beginning, in those 10 years, he was trained as an assassin and she was trained as a supernatural hunter. And they're both very like cold-hearted now because they thought they lost their true love. And he's a cold-hearted assassin. She's been alone for 10 years being the supernatural hunter. So they're both very closed off, but especially her, she has to do everything. She's very stubborn. She takes risks to help him or save him when he wants to do the same for her. And you can tell slowly, especially I would say in the haunted asylum, you can kind of see she starts to let him go first. He's like, let me go first in the room. And she's like, all right, go ahead. She's like, lets him do it. So you could see that she starts to develop this trust in him, even though she always trusted him. She didn't realize how much she just relied on herself. Like she didn't think that she could rely on other people. So when she starts to let that go, you could see her hide behind him when he pushes her behind him, and he's trying to be this tough assassin kind of thing. So you get to see their bond grow. And the nice thing about it is that's how it was in role play. When we started writing, we didn't know each other. We had no idea who we were, we didn't even plan to have the characters per se be a couple. I even told my co-writer, I was like, listen, she's going to be in love with him, but it doesn't have to be it doesn't have to be both ways. So you decide while you're writing the story, because I wanted to be organic. You decide while you're writing if it's something that's going to happen. But immediately you could tell that bond was like totally growing. So as we grew, our bond grew as writers and partners in this. You could tell their bond grew when they started trusting each other. So it's very organic to have them start to grow and and start to do stuff like that. So it's very nice to see that kind of development between them.
Yes, and that reminds me a little bit of a book that I read and is one of my favorite books. So I'm actually a little bit excited to read that because it's just something that I enjoy reading
That's
personally.
really a bonus.
So how do you balance staying true to an established comic book lore while also bringing fresh ideas to your table?
I think because it's just all fresh in my head, like we've written so much, and I always say nothing's going to beat this idea. This is the best idea we've ever had. And then we do something cooler. And I just remember thinking, every time we had this amazing idea, and it's so funny, too, because I will tell you, it's like it was meant to be and we didn't even know it. So a lot of the comics that we write, we don't even know that they're going to be I did a lot of research on the angels and the demons and their powers and their lore. We added some of our own. Um, so, for example, to keep a little bit unique, we have quote unquote vampires, but they're a subspecies of vampires. And the difference is that these vampires had a mutation. It started with one, had a mutation where its heart beats once every 6 hours, which is just enough to keep off rigor mortis. So they have very clotted blood. They're called clotters to fit that description. So their blood's a lot thicker, and there's a couple of things that happens because of this. One, they're stronger, faster, more powerful, but they also require more protein, more blood. So they can only take it directly from a human. They can't take it from a blood bag. They can't take it from an animal. And because our vampires still have souls, they started turning the most ruthless ruthless people so that they're willing to kill humans directly. Because if they don't feed directly from humans, they start to decompose like a zombie. So they have to continually feed all the time. But the worst trait is that if they taste your blood or they bite you or taste your blood, they can track you anywhere you go. And if you kill that vampire, the entire nest can now track you wherever you go. They don't mind the sunlight, though they usually stay out of it. They can go into it, which is original lore. Original lore was they can go in the sun, but they're shadow creatures. Stabbing them in the heart doesn't affect them, which it never really affected original vampires either. It was to pin them to their coffin. So the only way to really kill them is to burn them, which would take way too long. So the best way is to decapitate them. So that's a big thing, that they have to decapitate them. So when they fight these in issue 4 through 6, that was a huge thing, that like, well, now we have to go after these because they can track me. And if we don't, they will follow me wherever I go, like a homing beacon. So we tried to mix up the lore a little bit by having a little spin on certain things. So, and then other things we followed directly to scripture, like they have a guardian angel who's not an idiot, but very naive. But his name is Camiel, and in scripture, he's the angel of true love. So he was to watch them and be their guardian. However, he's not the brightest. He was tricked in their last life, and he wound up screwing everything up and screwing up their entire existence by something he did in the last life, which they don't know yet in the story what it is. But because of him is now why everything's so screwed up. But he was tricked, and so we have to kind of forgive him eventually, I suppose. But we have things like that. And then there were things that wound up being that we had no idea. Like her father, everything started with her father. So her father is Remnal, who is the angel of, he judges the souls on earth and brings them to heaven. So the whole thing that started the entire story was, like an idiot, I was thinking, how is he carrying these souls? Is he putting them in his pocket? What is he doing? So I created the angelic weapon that holds the power of souls. He stores them in there, and then when he collects enough, he goes to heaven. Draven's father, which I didn't know at the time, we just pulled a random demon, is actually a chaos demon who feeds on souls, which we did not know in the beginning. So he would generally attack and steal the souls. That was what his main purpose was. And then we found out after the story was done that Remnal's weapon is, of course, a sword, but it's also lightning. And Draven's father, the demon in lore, is completely immune to any lightning, both magical or nature-wise. So it was like this whole thing. And then her father created Seraphina from this weapon by using the souls from it, using his power, using the mother's power that was a goddess. And I didn't know, because angels can't have, they can't have children. And when they wound up having, I don't know if you know anything about the scriptures, whatever, it created Nephilims, which is giants. They're giants, which is half human, half angel. Well, I had no idea until probably after the comic started that Remnal is the original angel that created the first angel human Nephilim. So it just fit perfectly that all of our stuff just happened to fit, and we had no idea when we were writing it. So it just made it all more meant to be. Scarily meant to be.
That's great. So you put in a bit of research into your comics then?
A lot of research. Yeah. Yeah. Like when we do something, I never want to say it, we did it. And I know it's fiction and all that fun stuff. But like, for example, there's one part where way later, she fights a shark underwater. And I've always heard you can punch a shark. So I wanted to make sure that that was actually something you're supposed to do. I looked it up. You can, and it does work. You're supposed to attack the gills first, but for her, she punches the shark in the nose, and it helps. So I had to look that up. There's another part where she fights a monster, and there's a specific propane tank there, and I had to do all the research to how the propane works. If she shoots this one thing, will it work? And it's not if you shoot it. It's I forgot what it was. Like if you shoot it, it doesn't matter. It has to be a certain spark. But if you shoot a propane tank, it actually doesn't light it on fire. It has to be a certain spark. So yeah, I did all this research to make it as realistically fictional as possible.
That's great. And according to you, what do you think makes a successful comic book series?
um, I'm gonna have to say that amazing characters definitely help. Um, but something obviously I think that you have to have the story already finished or know the ending to do it, because I would not have started this if I didn't know the characters. You know, I would have to I don't have to worry about the ending being good or not because I already did it. So a lot of people start their comic book, they don't even know what their next issue is going to be. So I think it's very important to have your story written out, because somebody asked me in an interview, is it going to be like Game of Thrones where it gets really good and then it goes downhill? I'm like, no, because it's already written. I already know where the story is going and how it's going to go. And we're still writing to this day, but I could stop at issue 44 and it could be a great ending and that's it. Or I could stop at the next 30 and it's going to be a complete ending and it's going to be really good. I don't have to go into series 3. I'm still going to write them. But so I think that's very important. But the characters being important, and something that my letter hates and my editor hates, I write dialogue the way people talk, and they hate it because they keep trying to correct my writing. But one thing that I got praised on the most, besides the character development and the bond, is that the dialogue's really good, because that's how people talk. That's how, when you talk in your head, you do not put, that's me reminding me to see you. when you talk, you don't have all the, variables in your head, and you don't have the everything right. I'm not talking like commas hate me though. Me and commas do not get along. But when it comes to the writing of the dialogue, certain words I use it how you talk. And they always want proper, they say, you say had here or have here. No, when someone says that to somebody, they do not use that word. And I always say it out loud to be like, would I say that? No. And just like, for example, I guess you can use either word. You can use either or neither. Whenever it's something negative, I always say me neither. And if it's something positive, I say me either, like me too, me either, whatever. So they were getting like, oh, neither is better. And I was like, I don't use neither. When I talk, I don't use neither. So I think dialogue is very important. And I think writing it as a novel definitely helped it better, because when somebody's writing a comic book series, they write it per page per script. And I don't do that. So I write it out like a novel, and then I put it together. And I learned the hard way when I first wrote the script that I had to leave room for dialogue and for picture, because I had so much dialogue that they're like, did you want to see any of the art, or did you just want all dialogue? So I was like, oh. So my first script actually wanted to be like 3, because I had to space things out more. So I think that's very important to write it as a story first, not as a comic book, because when you're writing it as a comic book, your mind just doesn't flow. That's not how you think. Some people do, and it's just not how I write. So that, I thought that was very important to do that. So yeah, I think getting in the characters and obviously being very passionate about it. You're not going to make money doing this. I haven't made any money. I'm just trying to make enough to pay the artist, and I'm happy. So it's not about the money. People come up to me like, oh, what do you want people to know? It's like that. Don't get into this care of the money. Do it because you're obsessed with the story and you want to see your characters come to life, because that is the only reason to do comics, is to share your story with the world. And that's the only reason. So that's very important to know when you're doing that's what you want it for, because if you're doing it for money, you're not going to do it. you might get lucky, but you're probably not.
I've heard a lot of comic book writers say that. I feel like that should just be like stretching people's heads at this point.
Yeah.
Do not get into it for the money. Like everybody has been saying that.
Yes. Yeah, I've spent a fortune. I've spent a ton. I lost pretty much 9 grand in the very beginning, or 8 grand in the very beginning. And yeah, but I don't care. I want to see the story. I've been told by my best friend, or one of my friends, to slow down. Slow down. Why are you on 17? Slow down. You don't have to be on 17. But I can't. I can't stop. I have withdrawals from the pages when I don't see it. And it's tough because 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, and now 17. I don't get any money for that until I can put it on Kickstarter. So I'm always behind no matter what. But I just cannot stop. I can't stop. Plus, I want to see it done because I had 2 publishers in the very beginning tell me that there's no way that I would get all 44 done. Because I had sent it to a proposal and they said, we don't accept anybody that has more than 3 issues. Like you can't, there has to be 3 issues and done, and that's it. And I was like, that's stupid. Like, why would you do that? And both of them said, 2 different publishers said, well, only 60% read the second one and only half of those read the third one. I was like, well, then you have the wrong stories, because if it's a truly good story, they want to get into it. Like, what comic book series do you know that's big time? Like Batman, and not that I'm comparing myself to them, but all these big stories have been around for years and their stories go on. There's more than 3, more than 3 issues. So they said there's no way you're going to get them all done. So I am determined to get them done. I think by the end of the year, we'll be halfway through 44. So that's exciting. So we'll see.
Yeah, I disagree with their statement of just from my own opinion about that because I have read, well, it's not comic books, but I have read actual novels where sometimes they have like 17 novels in the series. And I have read every single one of those books
You
because of
still
how
want more.
entertaining it was. Yes,
Yeah.
I just kept wanting to go and read it.
Yep.
So, like, if
Yep.
you make it entertaining enough, it's just like watching a series, just like reading a novel. People are going to continue coming back to it.
Yeah. Yeah. And the fact that it's already written so many issues, it helps to know that we're not going to repeat ourselves, because we're already on issue 108 and nothing's repeated. So we're not worried about that. We're worried about people being able to afford it every other month. But other than that, so far people, and I do have, like I said, other options. Like a lot of people will buy the PDFs for $5, and then when the hardcover comes out, they buy the hardcover. But I have a lot of people that buy the singles, which comes with the PDFs. So they get both, and then they buy the hardcover. So I have both. I like both. I love hardcovers because they're so permanent feeling. They're like so permanent, and I love them. And I'm so excited. I'm actually ordering the next hardcover actually this week. And I cannot wait to see it. I have covers for it, and I just put it together. Actually, today I did the intro today and all that fun stuff. So I love the hardcover. Now, storing them is a whole other story because I have to buy 500 at a time. So usually when an indie creator sells a hardcover, they're like 55. They sell them for like $55. But I didn't want to do that, especially in this time and era. So I bought 500 of them to make them cheaper, so that people only have to spend like $35 to get the whole hardcover. I also don't do soft cover because normally people sell the soft cover for $35. So I figure there's nobody on the planet that rather have a soft cover. I'm sure there's somebody, but they wouldn't rather have the soft cover than the hardcover. So I figure I'll sell the hardcover for the soft cover price, and then everybody's happy. So far that's worked out really well, and so we're gonna keep at that. So.
Funny you should say that. I'm actually somebody who likes soft covers over hardcovers.
See, when I was reading them, so let me rephrase it. When I was reading them, I do like soft cover. For comic books, I like the hardcover. And the reason why I like the soft cover when I was reading them back in the day, because it was very hard to read with the big, thick, book on my chest, and I can't carry it around. But for hardcovers, it's not as bad as a hardcover. But yeah, I can see where it comes to a novel, definitely I prefer soft cover. So I should rephrase that. For soft cover, for novels, definitely. Mostly because I carried them around. I stuck them, in my whatever backpack. So I used to love carrying the books around. And I remember carrying around It from Stephen King. And that thing was, this. It was like, I was like, what is this? So yeah, I could see where that would come in a novel form. Yeah. I agree with you there.
What do you like most about being a comic book writer?
Um, I'm torn between two things, and they're pretty much equal. I love seeing a page done. I love seeing the emotions in my characters. I love seeing that I pictured this exactly in my head while I was writing it, and now it's on paper. Absolutely love it. But I love hearing someone say, "Oh, I love this part of the story. Oh, I love this." And, I love Serafina. I have like 4 people that are in love with Serafina, and I'm like, "You have to gonna fight Draven for her because he's gonna kill you." But I really like people that can like it the way I do or love it the way I do. And I still can't believe that people pay money to read it. Like, to me, it's like I'm just making these for me, and then I need money to do it. But it's mainly for me, and I'm just grateful that other people also like it. And I always had faith in the story, but it's still amazing to see because I don't have faith in my writing at all, and I don't consider myself a writer. I consider myself a storyteller. Like, I think my co-writer could write novels, no problem. Me, no. I'm a horrible writer but I have my co-writer doesn't say, she's like, my co-writer is all about you're the better writer. I am not the better writer. However, my ideas are way out there. I don't know where they come from. And I used to say when I was role playing with my co-writer, and I'd be like, this is such a wasted talent. I have no talents. This is such an awesome story. I'm so mad that I can't do something with it. So the fact that I can now see them in a comic book form is just amazing. Sometimes I'll look at it and I'll be like, anyone can do this. And then I'll look at it again and be like, I can't believe that I was able to do it. Like, it goes back and forth. Like, it's just a comic book to being like, I can't believe it's a comic book. So I have bipolar moments when it comes with it. And I have a lot of mixed emotions a lot, but I can't believe when I get to see it, and every time I get a page, my artist gives me probably 2 to 3 pages 3 times a week, and it's still not enough. Like, I still want more. I'm like, my wallet does not want more, but I want more. He went away for a month and my wallet's like, oh, thank goodness. And I was like, damn it, what am I going to do for a month? So, there's a lot of mixed emotions going on.
That's great, and definitely understand that, like, feeling, because I have, like, maybe 20 novels I started writing, and the problem is that I'm really good at making ideas. I cannot write a book to save my life. I have nothing published, but 20 different novels started, and some started all the way in 2017. Like, I have nothing published, but things started because I have great
Maybe
ideas,
you need to
but
make it a
suck
comic
at
book.
writing.
Let me tell you, if you read everyone's like, oh, you need to release the novels. They will never be read by anybody. They're not. So I'm not a bad writer. I'm a very simple writer. Very simple. You know how you're supposed to show, don't tell, I can't do that. I tried it for one day. It hurt my brain. I did not like it. But if I just sit down and I don't even edit my own stuff, I literally write it out and send it, and that's it. And so I really have this mentality of just write it. So you should sit down. Don't worry about all the bells and whistles. Just write one story. And then when you're done, be like, what do I want to do with this? Do I want to send it to a ghostwriter to fix it up for me? Or do I want to turn it into a comic book? Because I will tell you that I never in a million years would have thought I'd make a comic book. Like, it was not something like, oh, I'm going to make a comic book one day. No. But my writing converts, I guess you could say, so well into a comic book script that it's like it was meant to be. It's so simple. It just describes what's going on. It describes where they're going or what they're doing, and it's perfect. So I always say it was meant to be. And I'm very lucky that's it. So I'm going to tell you, just write it. Don't think too much into it. Just write it. Don't worry about the show, don't tell. Don't even worry about if it's going to end or not. I mean, when I wrote these, I had no idea it was going to be a story. I just literally, when you're writing in role play, you just write something to entertain the other person enough to write back. That's it. There is no thought process other than we're going to fight this giant snake now, and we're going to have a ball doing it, and then something's going to happen. So that's really what it is. Or you could start role playing, but I'll tell you, it's very drama filled. It's a heart attack waiting to happen in that whole situation. But I used to role play on roleplayer.me. And yeah, so I'm just gonna tell you, just write it. Pick one story, your favorite story. I know it's like picking your favorite child, but pick a story and just write it and see what happens to it. I mean, my writing's not meant to be novels, but man, a comic book, perfect. Perfect. I love it.
That's great. I love that. And that's great advice. I'll definitely try starting something. I would love to get something out there with
Yeah,
like my ideas.
yeah. And then when you do, you can put dedicated to me because I'm the one that made you write it. So there you go. And then I'll help you put it into a script. I might even let you borrow my artist. We'll see.
Thanks. Um, what would you say is your biggest challenge that you have faced?
Um, Getting the story looked at. Mostly I do podcasts like this. I've done over 225 of them, so trying to get it into the eyes of, different people. I think in the very beginning, I got laughed at a lot because creators that have been doing this for 15 years are like, why do you have merch? Why do you have plushies? What are you doing? Like, what is your problem? And I was just like, well, I wanted it and now it's tax deductible. So that's really the only answer I ever had. And now, probably 6 months in, they're like, so what's your contact for plushie maker? Or, where did you get all these coins or, 3D things and all that stuff? So people that have been doing this for a long time will ask me, what my contacts are. I even got asked today. They're like, someone has been in the comic book industry for apparently 10 years, I found out. And then they're like, so how do you get on shows? And I was like, I contacted like 300 of them and got on 200 of them, so it's like, I worked my butt off. And before I did comic books, my parents, my friend, I've always been the lazy one. So don't ask me. Passion makes you do far more than you would ever thought you would. Because somehow my passion has overcome my laziness, and I do a ton of stuff. Because when the Kickstarter ends, I gotta ship everything, and everything is gift wrapped before it's mailed. And I hate gift wrapping, but I love gift wrapping these. And my husband laughs at me because for Christmas, for birthdays, I never gift wrap. You get you get it in a bag, or you could just open it. We never gift wrap anything, which is ironic because I love unwrapping stuff, but I just always hated wrapping stuff. But I ever since the very beginning, I gift wrapped every single thing that I send out. So yeah, somehow passion overcame laziness. So there you go.
I feel like we are definitely kind of similar in a lot of ways. And related to merch, I totally get it because I want to make or buy my own merch. And I don't even have anything like created out there, but I do like I have some art that I made, like little snakes and things that I want to be put into game designs as well. But I would love to have merch of them, like stuffed animals and like buttons. And I actually have a button maker. So these are things that I would love to be made into merch myself. So I really understand that part.
Yeah, so I'm going to start. Actually, it's funny you say that because I did make one giant salamander out of clay because I used to do clay. So these are like my clay. This is my little bird, and this is my phoenix that I did. Oh, you can't see because of the thing.
Oh,
Um,
that's great.
I do have. Let me see where my dragon is. Well, I have my sloth. This is my sloth. So I used to do clay, and all that stuff. So I'm thinking of trying to do that, with the combining it with my story. This is my little monkey. So there's things that I have decided, like, I think I'm gonna love, So I'm gonna try to do Anubis. I'm gonna try to do Chatty, my little vampire, my little vampire chameleon bat. So I'm gonna try to work on that. So yeah, I love making my own merch and all that stuff. I love my plushies. I think I have some not even listed. I think on this one I've sold 2. What did I sell? I sold my zombie plushie. I know my zombie plushie sold this time, and he was the last one. I think there's one left of my hellhound. There's one left of my skeleton bird. And so they're all handmade, and I think there's only one left of him too. So there's only one left of each. These are all handmade, and so they're more expensive, but there's only like 3 made. Like, there's only like 3 of those. These guys are my first commercially released ones. So they're a little cheaper. The whole point of these, and it worked out really well, was I wanted something more affordable for people. So these are 29 each instead of like I think the other ones were like 60 each or something like that. So I have more of those, but I can't get enough. I want to get Chatty done. I sold so I'm sad already. My last campaign, I had Chatty up for sale. He sold right away. And then my friend contacted me who always buys my plushies. And she's like, Chatty already sold. So I put mine up for her to buy. And now I have to get my own Chatty made. So I have no Chatties right now. I'm very upset about it. So I'll have to get that made. But yeah, so I can't get enough of my merch. And I have what you see if you go on my Kickstarter, there's like 40 tiers. Um, that's not even like all the merch I have. That's like 60%. I have to wait to add more. But I have magnets I want to make. I have clay stuff I want to make. I have coins I want to make. I have 3D statues I mean, I have all this stuff. So it's very addicting to do and play with it and stuff. Yeah, I think you'd be just as bad as me. And I got made fun of because they're like, Chatty's a marketing ploy. I was like, damn straight. Like I wanted to see him as a plushie so bad. I was like, I pretty much added him just so I can have him as a plushie. But he's adorable. So
That's awesome. And I definitely will be like that. We're down to our last three questions.
great.
So the next one is, what is a common misconception, besides, the money thing, that you may have heard about people who write comic books?
So it's funny. I was scared to tell everyone that I was a girl. So when I first started, especially a horror comic girl, because there's not a lot of women in comics, there's not a lot of women in horror. So I did not do any videos or audio. I didn't do any podcasts or anything. On Twitter, I only had my logo up, so nobody knew. And I was scared to say what I was because I thought that I wouldn't be, respected enough or whatever. And then I met another horror chick. Her name's Lori Cockatella. She has Path of the Pale Rider live now, and she's in horror. And we hit it off instantaneously. And I was like, well, if she can do it, I can do it. And I have to say that she's the only other female I know in comics. I know there's more, but she's the only one I know that's a creator. And it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. I think I've only really been condescended towards. I don't even know how to say it properly, but they were only condescending towards me maybe 3 times. I think 3 though were on the air, so that was like the worst. But it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. I thought the men are going to be like, get out of our space, and you don't belong here, and blah blah. But they're actually incredibly supportive, and even the ones that were very condescending, they thought they were helping. And I appreciated it because I want the advice. But one of them made half as much as I did on Kickstarter, so I was just like, well, I'll take my own advice. But even the ones that were very condescending on the air wound up apologizing after, because they got a lot of bad comments being like, don't treat Corissa that way, and you don't talk to her that way, and blah blah, which I was very touched about. So it wasn't as, it's very, very male dominated, not gonna lie. But it's not as bad as I thought. They're all very welcoming. It's not like a lot of people think it's very competitive, and it is story wise, but the community that I'm in, I'm sure there's other ones, but the community I'm in is very supportive, and they're very great to each other, and they take care of each other. So I got very lucky. So I've been asked, oh, isn't it competitive and blah blah, and I'm like, no, it's very supportive. We back each other, we share each other out when we do all that stuff. So I have to say it wasn't as bad as I thought being a girl in comics. So.
I love that. I'm also a horror lady myself, and mythical creatures. I get what you're saying because I've been doing these interviews, as you've seen. I've been doing them for comic book writers, comic book artists, and novel writers. That's what I've gotten to so far. And I believe out of every single one of them that you are only the second lady I've done.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I definitely realize that there's a bit more males in the thing, either that or it's just harder to find them.
Yep.
Ladies in there.
Or we're
And
hiding. It
definitely
might be hiding.
And definitely what you're saying about things, I find networking makes it way more easier, and that's how you
Yeah,
get your supportive crew, is when
yeah,
you network and branch out and find people who are like you and
yeah.
enjoy that same stuff.
Yeah, I could not do this without the support system that I have. They're amazing, and I wasn't expecting that, so I'm very lucky to have that. Yeah.
So how do you use social media to promote your stuff besides like your Kickstarters?
I only use social media. Um, I um, I talk to a lot. I have 5,000 followers, 5,200 followers on Facebook, and I try to interact with as many as possible. I post questions to get people interacting and engaging, and I post pages, covers that I have. I ask them, which they're very, very, very they love interacting with the cover. They want to pick the cover. So I'll post like 5 cover sketches. Which cover do you like the most? And sometimes I think the last one, it was like, oh, C, you got to do C. So like the first 20 was C, and then it started kind of like waving off. Usually it's like, it's got to have A, and the other one's got, you got to have B, you got to have A. And it was like, so it can be exhausting because they'll be like completely different, reasons for each one. So that is probably the most. I just like to post a lot and engage. I don't like Twitter anymore. There's nothing against Twitter. It's just that I used to get a lot of interact. I have 5,000 followers in there too. I used to get a lot of interactions. Now you post something and nobody sees it. So I have to admit I barely post on there. And if it wasn't for the fact that I had 5,000 followers, I probably wouldn't even be on there. Um, I don't go on TikTok and Instagram. I'm on there. I probably should use it. I mean, I know TikTok's great. I should probably get on there and figure it out. I got like 1,200 followers. But Facebook just seems to, and I'm not a big fan of Facebook, but it just seems to work so much better. I mean, you can engage with people, you can share things, and I know the algorithm's getting worse though. Like everyone's like, oh, you can't see this and you can't see that. So I don't know, with the AI crap going on, who knows if it's going to work out or not. But for now, Facebook seems to be working pretty okay.
That's great. Yeah, you kind of have to go with the flow with all these social medias. I'm on 30 different social media
Yeah,
accounts and they all have different algorithms and sometimes it's a little harder to figure out how to do it on each
yeah,
thing.
yeah,
It's definitely a ride to figure all that out, and Facebook really should have a poll option which will make it so much easier to figure it out.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
cover like better instead of having to go and just like manually read everything and write it down because that's what I
Oh,
have to
I
do.
wish that you could have a poll with a picture. Like if I could post
Mm,
pictures, like which cover do you want? Pick A, B, whatever. My life would be so much easier.
right?
But
Yes,
no,
exactly that.
but no, that would be too easy. So no, no, no. I hate Instagram. I mean, I know it's great, and I only made it because when I was at a convention, none of the artists had Facebook or Twitter. So I made it. I can't figure it out. I just found out yesterday that there's 3 options of messages. It kept saying I have messages. I could not find these messages, and apparently there's primary, general, and requests. I was like, what the hell is this system? So I just found out I had messages from like last year. So sorry, but I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan. So but yeah, you can find me everywhere.
Yeah, it's totally understandable. Trying to juggle all these social medias to get very, very
I,
confusing. Okay, so that was well, we have one more question, and you probably answered it earlier, but I'd like to ask it at the end also, so people who are watching can know. Where do we find all your comic books?
so I do have a website, worthychaoscomics.com, but it only has the digital downloads, the hardcover, and these plushies. However, the best, cheapest, and most effective way is through Kickstarter. Search Worthy Chaos on Kickstarter. Will always pop up, and it's only us. Make sure to go to the newest one. It's either going to be live or pre-launch. We launch every other month. This one ends July 8th, and the next one's August 5th. And then we have one at the end of September, which will have the hardcover and issue 13. And then I squeezed in issue 14 because it's one of my favorites. So that's going to be at the end of October. It should be next year, but I just could not wait. I'm so excited for 14. You could find me on Facebook, Corissa Grant. We have Facebook group called Worthy Chaos. Anyone can post their links in there, their Kickstarters in there, their art in there, their podcast links, whatever they want in there. We also have a business page. If you go there and like it, it's great. I don't know the point. I use it because I'm told to use it. It's a business page and I post things on there, but it seems that my personal one works better. So yeah, just search Worthy Chaos anywhere and there I am. So
Awesome. And that was the last question. So thank you so much for meeting with me today. Had a
well,
wonderful time. I can't wait
thanks
to
for having
check
me on.
out your comic books.
Great. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Bye guys.
Well, and thank you to everyone who's watching. But goodbye.
Bye.
Doo-doo.